Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. I always believed that jealousy was best kept as a silent ember, smoldering within oneself. I never imagined that someone like Karen, my neighbor, would take envy to such extreme lengths. Let me share with you the twisted tale of how her jealousy led her down a treacherous path, and how it all unfolded in the end. Having saved diligently for years, I finally achieved my dream of purchasing a sleek and stylish sports car. It wasn't the most extravagant vehicle, but in our modest neighborhood it stood out as a symbol of success. Karen, with her insatiable desire for the best of everything, could not stomach the fact that my car surpassed her own. While she excelled in maintaining the finest lawn and house, my new possession became a thorn in her side. Karen's sour expression, resembling someone who had swallowed an entire lemon, greeted me as I parked my gleaming car in front of my house. I knew her jealousy would stir up a storm, but I expected nothing more than a few spiteful comments. Little did I know that her envy would drive her to unfathomable depths, revealing her true nature. As fate would have it, I woke up the following day to discover my cherished car missing. Panic gripped my heart, and tears welled up in my eyes at the thought of it being stolen. It never occurred to me that legal street parking could lead to such a nightmare. Desperate for answers, I scoured my security camera footage, managing to catch a glimpse of the towing company's name. Determined to reclaim what was rightfully mine, I dialed the tow company's number. The call was met with denial, as if my car's existence was erased from their records. But armed with video evidence, I confronted them, demanding an immediate explanation. The truth unraveled through a convoluted and frustrating conversation. The tow company's owner, caving under the weight of guilt and fear, divulged that Karen had orchestrated the entire plan out of sheer jealousy. She persuaded him to tow my car, intending to rummage through it at a remote location. The extent of her malevolence left me seething with anger. Infuriated, I cut off the owner's feeble excuses and threatened to involve the police. Determined to expose the truth, I filed a police report and enlisted the help of a friend to locate my car, now abandoned and violated. It appeared dirtied, broken into, and stripped of its valuables, which included my work materials and even the spare tire from the trunk. Karen's motives remained inexplicable, as if driven by sheer madness. It was a bittersweet victory, as the video evidence led to the tow company owner's tearful confession, implicating Karen as the mastermind. Both Karen and the tow company faced legal consequences, albeit to varying degrees. Karen's punishment was limited to charges related to theft and property damage, as she hadn't physically carried out the towing. Meanwhile, the tow company endured the brunt of the lawsuits, forced to pay hefty fines to both me and the city. The legal outcomes were gratifying, but it was the aftermath that truly satisfied my thirst for justice. News of this sordid affair spread like wildfire throughout the neighborhood. Karen's true colors were revealed, unmasking the despicable persona she had so desperately hidden. Whenever our paths crossed, I met her gaze with a piercing glare, and she would quickly avert her eyes, well aware of the consequences of provoking me again. The once beloved tow company, tainted by their nefarious act, lost the trust of the community. Local businesses severed ties with them, leading to their swift demise. In an ironic twist of fate, Karen found herself befriending the very kind of person she had always looked down upon. Her only ally, the tow company's owner, distanced himself from her, leaving her friendless and abandoned. The tale of Karen's jealousy had backfired spectacularly, resulting in a shattered friendship, a ruined business, and a significant legal blow. In the end, it wasn't my shiny new car that brought about her downfall, but her own toxic envy. She had underestimated the consequences of her actions and paid the price. As for me, I moved forward, cherishing my hard-earned success, and grateful to have exposed the true nature of the person living right next door. The next one is a pro-revenge story. So this story is a few years old now, from my first year of varsity. I had started varsity and was doing a pretty hectic course in the medical field. As a child to a single parent who had not worked since I was 15, I obviously needed a job to cover my living expenses and what little my scholarship didn't. So I started working part-time at a bookstore in my local mall as it suited my personality, and I love books in general. The bookstore is one of those large-scale corporate chain types. The pay was as close to minimum wage as humanly possible, though, So 6 months in, I am doing well, and I get promoted to night manager. Duties involved managing the night staff, most of whom are students like myself, and then 2 late 20 girls, both of whom have kids. A week into my being night manager, a directive comes from head office saying that we are not making enough book sales, and that we are obviously not trying. Now, to put it in perspective, this is around the time when Kindles and all the other types of e-readers were becoming popular. So naturally, physical book sales had dropped radically. To remedy this fact, they were sending down a new store manager to take over, and our current store manager would take a minor managerial role. 3 days later, in walks the new manager, a short lesbian woman who hates men and is bipolar, henceforth referred to as bipolar idiot, or BB. Needless to say, I walk through to the back for our daily shift change meeting where they introduce her. She greets us all and then asks all the managers to stay behind so everyone filters out, leaving the 4 managers. Myself as the night manager, the day manager, the stock manager, and our previous store manager. So the next thing, BB turns to me and asks me, WTF am I still doing here? I calmly explain that I am the night manager. She hears this and looks at everyone else to confirm this. Once they confirm the truth of my words, she looks at me directly and gives us the whole throwdown of how things around here are going to change. Nada, nade, nada. 6 months down the line, nothing much has changed. BB has been nothing but passive-aggressive to me and some others, and everyone has noticed, to the point where everyone in our store has a burning dislike for her. The managers get called in for a meeting where we get told the store is going to be closing in a week for 2 months for a revamp. I immediately ask why the short notice. The night staff all earn on a shift-to-shift basis, and a week's notice isn't enough time to make alternative arrangements. BB flips out at me saying that they don't matter and are easily replaceable. I point out that 2 of them rely on this job to feed their families, and they can't live without this job. All the other managers stand with me on this point. BB then falls back and says we will pay them a base wage for 1 month and then hire them as painters. Now, my neighbor is a painter by trade, and I know they earn at least twice what we are paid per hour, so I point this out as well as ask if she is also going to pay for them to be trained. She then flips out at me further for being a smart aleck. Okay, maybe I deserve that. Eventually she says that we will meet tomorrow to discuss her final decision. The time that she chooses, though, is an hour and a half before my shift starts, and right in the time frame where I have one of my final exams. I point this out, and an evil grin crosses BB's face as she says to me, "If you don't make it in tomorrow, don't bother coming in ever again." A week later, I find out 3 of my coworkers on the night shift were let go with no pay, and told to reapply once the store opens. All those who had openly been friendly with me were told not to come back. This included both young mothers. This sends me into a fit of absolute rage. It's one thing to screw with me, but to mess with my coworkers as well, that's too far. I immediately phoned head office to complain and was completely ignored, kept on the line, switched from department to department. Eventually I had enough and sent in a detailed report to my country's Business Control Council, reporting the corporation rather than the store for bad business practice and unfair dismissal of multiple staff members. I then emailed the corporation's HR explaining what I had done and why. I informed them that I would change my complaint to the name of the store manager, instead of the corporation in general, if they found a way to rectify what they had done. It took 3 days before I received a response. They rented a smaller store for everyone to work at, while the renovations were done at great expense due to the small timing window, and they had rehired everyone while suspending BB without pay until further notice. I immediately kept my promise and edited my complaint. An investigation was done, and BB lost her job permanently with no chance of a reference. She had worked for said company for 20 years. With a 20-year gap in her CV, it has been very hard for her to find a decent job. I saw her the other day working as a packer in my local supermarket. I realized I had forgotten to get sweet chili sauce and asked her, please, to get me a bottle off the shelf. I couldn't think of anything better to do as I had the flu and really wasn't my sharpest. I just wanted to get back to bed. She went off scowling, but I cannot guarantee she recognized me. This is what brought the story to mind. The next one is a petty revenge story. My sister and her husband are spending a lot of time in the hospital with my baby nephew, who has some health problems. So I've been dog-sitting Fred, my sister's 16-year-old dachshund. My neighbor saw me bringing Fred in for the first time and freaked out. She wanted to know why I was bringing in strays, and said that we'd end up overrun if the other dogs found out. The crazy cow seems to think the twilight bark from 101 Dalmatians is a real thing. She tried to kick poor Fred. He growled because she was shouting at him, but he's so old his teeth are almost useless. He couldn't have bitten if he wanted to, and she could see that. But she still kicked at him because she's evil. Even when I told her he's my sister's dog, she didn't apologize. Just told me to keep his ugly face away from her garden and stomped off. I hate this woman. I can cope with her racist homophobia and all-around nastiness when I'm her target, but Fred is elderly and frightens easily. He's confused, and he misses my sister. He deserves to be avenged. Confronting my crazy neighbor will not help. I have learned this through long experience. And so my petty revenge plan was born. I've had a few issues with slugs getting into my house, escaping the warm weather. I used to just put them near my compost heap. But now I drop them onto her vegetable patch, along with any others I can find lurking. I've even set up some old pots in shady places to encourage them. I'm committed. Every evening she removes slugs from her veggies and gives them a good watering, and half an hour later I drop several big fat slugs over the fence, right on top of her lettuces. By morning her lettuce looks like lace. She's losing her mind, shining torches into every nook and cranny looking for slugs every night. She's setting up beer traps and eggshells and cursing all of mollusk kind. It's glorious to behold. The next one is an entitled parent story. So my mom, 52F, thinks she can control me, 17M, and every aspect of my life. So for some context, I am a middle child. I have two brothers, 18M and 12M. Both my dad, 55M, and my mom don't work and just get money from my rich grandparents. My dad, overall, is pretty chill and lets me do whatever and doesn't really care most of the time. But my mom, on the other hand, has a few screws loose. For the last 10-ish years of my life, my mom has been an overbearing parent, always concerned about my grades. I do fine in school, mostly A's and the occasional B, not letting me hang out with friends on weekdays, always going through my phone and texts, and stuff like that. My mom gave me a phone, but limits my screen time to 30 minutes for everything a day. So yeah, not much. I am currently writing this Reddit post from a phone I bought off a classmate that my parents don't know about. Since I was young, around 8 years old, anytime I would make a small mistake, such as forgetting to take out the garbage, my mom would blow up and yell at me for hours. Sometimes it would even last multiple days. And after she is done yelling at me, she uses anything that brings me joy as punishment. Here are some examples of the punishments she has used in the past. She doesn't let me play video games. I'm not allowed to game almost 90% of the year. She doesn't let me go out with my friends, even on weekdays. She doesn't make me food, and I have to walk to the store and use my own money to buy and cook food. She makes me sleep on the floor, usually when I forget to make my bed. When I'm currently not allowed to play video games, and before I got this secret phone, I would read a lot, so she wouldn't let me read. And I would just sit and not be allowed to do anything, pretty much bored to death. Those are the ones I can remember off the top of my head, so there's probably a lot more. My older brother, 18M, made the mistake of telling my mom that he has a girlfriend when he was 15. Since then, she goes through his text messages every day, and also doesn't let him see her as part of his punishment. So when I started dating this girl around a year ago, I didn't make the same mistake as my brother. For me to hang out with my friends or girlfriend on weekdays, I told my mom I joined a school club. She thinks I'm in like 3 different clubs. I just show up to the clubs that I'm kind of friends with the club presidents. I show up for the club photo day, and that's pretty much it, and get on the email list to prove to my mom that I am in the club. My girlfriend's parents know about my situation and are very supportive. A couple of times my mom has kicked me out, and my girlfriend's family always takes me in and makes me feel welcomed. I already have some plans regarding my exit strategy. I already have a bank account my mom doesn't know about because my current one she has access to. I have also talked to my grandparents, and they said they will pay for my university and all expenses while I'm a student. The moment I turn 18, my girlfriend's parents said I can stay with them for the couple of months between my birthday and the start of university college. Any suggestions on what I should do in preparation for leaving? The next one is an entitled parent story. So, for like 6 months, my parents have been hanging out with this young woman, Brittany. She's 28, I think. She works as a nurse at the same hospital as my parents. They'd invite her for dinners and stuff like that. I liked her at first. My mom really likes her, and sometimes says I should be more like her. Brittany once offered me pot, and of course I said yes. But then she ratted me out to my mom. Brittany said she saw me smoking it in my room and was worried for me. My mom believed her, of course. That's all to say that I've got good reason to not like Brittany. My parents started hanging out late with Brittany, and then one morning during summer, I saw Brittany leaving my parents' bedroom. My parents had been at work for hours by then, and she looked like she had just gotten up. Then about 2 months ago, she started staying over often. My parents said she was staying to help them with work. Then one night I walked into my parents' bedroom and Brittany was in bed with my dad. I was really upset, but I didn't say anything at first because my dad promised he would explain it. After a week, I snitched on him to Mom. But my mom knew what was going on. She and Dad explained that Brittany was a special friend. She said my dad wasn't cheating because they were sharing Brittany, whatever that means. I was weirded out and just tried to move on. Unfortunately, on Monday, I came home to find Brittany's stuff everywhere. Apparently, Brittany is now going to live with us, supposedly because rent is just too high, and they wanted to help her out. Well, it hasn't even been a week, and I'm sick of her being here. I have to share a bathroom with her, and she's super nosy. My friend had come over so he could help me in math. Well, that night, Brittany told my parents that she's concerned about me being alone with a boy in my bedroom. My parents work late, so they never knew he was coming over. But now, thanks to Brittany, we have to stay in the kitchen so she can make sure we don't get up to trouble. My mom doesn't allow me to use tampons, but I'm in cheer and they're a necessity. So my friend gave me some to use whenever. I forgot to leave them in my locker, and I guess Brittany found them in my backpack. When I saw her looking at them, I flipped out. I told her she's not my babysitter and that I wanted her to leave me alone. Brittany got super offended and claimed that I was making her feel unwelcome. She threatened to leave, and my parents acted like I was being unreasonable. I get it's their house, but I feel like I should have been at least warned about her coming. Of course, she never left, and she's back to policing my behavior. My mom got the results back from some testing I had done and must have told Brittany. She told me I'm going to have to use boric acid suppositories, and that she's going to make sure I keep up with them. I really feel like Brittany being a parent is going too far, and that my parents are crazy to think I should just go along with what they're doing. The next one is a choosing beggars story. The previous owner of my house, H, called a few days ago, interested in buying the hot tub I have on my lower deck. I bought the house from him, including the hot tub and shed. When he sold the property to me, he was in an on and off again relationship with his now wife, Karen. I told him in the first phone call that I'd need time to think about it and do some research. I haven't used the hot tub in the year I've lived here, so I was open to selling it. By his own admission, it was worth $12,000 brand new 2 years ago and has seen very light use. There is no cosmetic damage besides being dirty. While playing phone tag with him over the next couple of days, I estimated that I could expect around $8,000 to $9,000 for it. Out of the blue 2 days ago, Karen called me and started talking about the hot tub. I began by asking how they planned to move it, and she said they would hire professional movers. Then I asked about their pricing expectations. She went into a long monologue about how they've put a lot of sweat equity into the home, being the ones who bought it and set it up, yada yada yada. She then told me they were looking for around $3,000 for it. Taken aback a bit, I told her I'd have to think about it, and that further negotiations would probably be necessary. She sounded very annoyed and rushed the entire time on the phone with me, as if she was working and I was inconveniencing her, even though she called me. Fast forward to today. Obviously, I've decided not to go through with the sale, and to be gentle about it, I called H and told him that I didn't want to sell it because it is part of the home's value. This is partially true, but I didn't want to come out and say that they, or rather Karen, tried to offensively lowball me. H was very understanding and asked me, sounding almost scared, to please text Karen and let her know before he got home. It was a weird request at the time, but okay, sure. As it turns out, I'm sure he knew what her reaction would be and didn't want to take the full heat for it. I texted her explaining what I had told H, and she texted me back saying, "We left you a super clean place." It had mold. And had a lot of sweat equity invested, a couch and a shed a company put in. You personally did not make those improvements. I made others. Yet you will capitalize on those improvements. That's how real estate works. She then went on to call me as greedy as the market and said that asking for the tub wasn't unreasonable because it was barely used at all. She ended with, "Best wishes on getting what you think you deserve out of our improvements." I've yet to send a reply because I have no idea what to say to her. The next one is a choosing beggars story. So this isn't my first post here, and I'm sure it won't be my last. I'm deaf and have been since I was 12. Since then, I've learned sign language and focused on learning how to lip read because all of my friends are hearing. Our story begins a couple of days ago when a good friend of mine, we've known each other for over 10 years, and I were in line at Starbucks. Honestly, I was pretty nervous because most of the time, I just use mobile order. It's a lot less pressure for me and it's less time consuming for the barista. But of course, today my phone had died. Luckily, I had a friend with me to calm me down. There was a pretty long line, but we didn't mind. We just signed while we waited for our turn, when I saw the lady in front of us at the counter. I could tell she was angry as she was throwing her hands up in the air. Unfortunately, she was facing away from me, so I didn't get to know all the details. I asked my friend to sign what she was saying so I could gossip with her. She started interpreting, and here's what went down. EP. You are honestly the worst cashier I've ever met. Where is your manager? Today's your last day at work, and I'm going to make sure of it. Barista. I'll be right back. Let me go get my manager for you. In the meantime, please step right over here so these two ladies can get through. The barista turned around and left, and the EP looked back at me and my friend. EP. Of course. Starbucks is always something I didn't understand. Yet I am always put last. Me. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm deaf. I said this while signing. EP. So they're gonna serve a retard over me. I've been waiting longer, and they should really serve the normal people first. She said something after that, but I was so shocked that I stopped reading her lips. Friend. Are you kidding me? She's just deaf, and she deserves just as much respect as you. Don't start calling her abnormal just because she can't hear you, idiot. The manager came in from the back to calm everyone down. The EP apparently told the manager I was throwing up gang signs, but my friend told him, "She's ducking deaf. What do you want from her, lady?" Then the EP went off on the cashier for attempting to have other people cut her in line. The EP was asked to leave, and my friend and I got our drinks for free. And man, did it feel good to wave at that idiot while she was huffing in her car with my free coffee. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.